Welcome to the intermediate group. I'm in Chesham, but this is really relevant to Chesham students and to the Watford group as well. It's like a recap of what we've been doing over the last 5 weeks. Before I go into what we've really been doing, have a look at this board here. So if you can come a little bit closer, just to get that whole board, it's the board that's the most important. I was teaching a little bit about the main modal verbs. They're here. The 10 main modal verbs: will and would, shall and should, can and could, may, might, must and ought to. And for some of these, I actually wrote why we use them. So will for the future, shall for a suggestion, should for advice, ought to for advice, and might for possibility. The reason I haven't written the reasons for the other ones is because there are multiple reasons that we're going to go into in the future. Remember that after a modal verb, the main verb is always infinitive. Always. Infinitive means present simple first person. So if I say, I can swim, you'll say, he can swim. The main verb is always infinitive. I noted the 3 most important auxiliary verbs of the English language: be, have and do. And then I took this particular auxiliary verb today and I put it up here. And I said, if you see the verb have, or has, or had as an auxiliary verb, so in the same sentence you can see the main verb, you know it's some sort of perfect tense. If you see a sentence and it has an ing, it is normally always a continuous. Of course, the exception is I like smoking, and then smoking is like a gerund. So, of course, there are exceptions to all of the rules. But in general, if you see ing as a verb, it's always continuous. And if you see will, you know it's something to do with the future. So if you put them together, if you see will and an auxiliary verb and ing, you know it's something like future perfect continuous. If you see this with this, you know it's a perfect continuous. Okay? If you see this and this, well, it's a future continuous. So it's ways of just playing with what the tense could be. Coming on to the main part of the lesson, we were looking at passive again, but instead of just looking at the passive and saying, in your exam this term there's going to be past simple passive, active and passive, I decided to note a few of the tenses on the board, and I did that to show you that if you can learn how to move a tense from active to passive, you actually know how to move any tense from active to passive. So, for a present simple, for example, you have Mike teaches English, subject, verb, object. The object becomes the subject, you add the verb to be, and then you add the past participle. But this is the same for everything. So in present continuous, Mike is teaching English at the moment. You have the subject, you have the auxiliary verb to be, plus the main verb is the ing form, and here's the object. The object becomes the subject. You add the verb to be in the past participle. The structure of the tense remains the same. So because you've already got the auxiliary verb to be here, you have the auxiliary verb, whether it's active or passive, and you add the verb to be. So it's about, so I summarised it down here. To make a sentence, to change any tense from active to passive, you firstly move the object to the subject. The object becomes the subject. You add the verb to be, and then, if necessary, you change the main verb into the past participle. But here we could see, because we were looking at present perfect for fun, subject, auxiliary verb has, plus the main verb given, and there's the object. The object becomes the subject, you keep the same auxiliary verb, you add the verb to be, but the past participle is still the past participle, you don't have to change anything. So remember, it's all about this verb to be, and as you can see, The verb to be tells you more about the tense. You know, here in the present simple passive, it's in the present simple. Here, it's an auxiliary verb because you've got a main, so the verb to be in passive becomes continuous form. Here, in the past simple, the verb to be is a past simple. Here, the verb to be is like a past participle. So, it seems simple when I document it in 3 steps, but you do still have to do stuff with the verb to be. We even did the future simple here. I will see my doctor tomorrow. Subject, auxiliary verb will, main verb see, and the object. The object becomes the subject. Keep the structure and add the verb to be, and then change to the past participle. Basically, if you can learn these rules and learn how to play with the verb to be, you can transfer any tense from active to passive. Okay?